Hey guys, how is everybody doing? Still talking about some Deadpool and Wolverine content. Here are my thoughts on the sequel to X-Men Origins Wolverine, or Wolverine's second standalone movie, The Wolverine. And before I even begin, I will say this. This is probably Wolverine's most underrated adventure. Now, I am glad to see some people on Twitter have come around saying, like, before Deadpool and Wolverine came out, they were saying, like, before Deadpool and Wolverine comes out, I want to make it clear. The Wolverine is a good movie, and I'm glad it's getting that because I never hear anybody talk about this. When people talk about Wolverine or Hugh Jackman as Wolverine in general, nobody ever talks about the Wolverine. Everybody talks about Logan, obviously. People, for some reason, like to talk about X-Men Origins Wolverine because how shitty it is. Or they'll talk about him in like X2, the original X-Men movie. They'll always talk about him in these other movies, but they never bring up the Wolverine. And I believe that it's an absolute crime because I would honestly contend that this is not only the most underrated Wolverine movie, I would contend this is probably the most underrated comic book movie of all time because nobody talks about this movie. Nobody brings it up in a conversation, and I believe it's an absolute crime because I really enjoy this movie. I don't love it by any means, but I do really like it. Again, like with X-Men Origins Wolverine, I have a lot of nostalgia for this movie because I remember very vividly, actually not vividly, I remember crystal clear when I first watched this movie. I was at my cousin's house. We were very young. I believe this is like right at the time it came out on Blu-ray back in like 2013 or early 2014 because this movie came out in 2013. I just don't know the exact date. But it came out in 2013. Either I watched it around that time or the beginning of 2014. I have no idea. I remember I was going to my cousin's house and I walked in. It was like maybe 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I walked in and he was watching this movie and it was at the part to where he was fighting like the big robot machine thing. And it was at that part and I saw it and I sat down and I fell in love with that sequence. And I was like, Dad, I need you to buy this movie for me. This movie looks awesome and I want to sit down and watch it. So we went to our Hastings, something that I missed very badly. I really wish it didn't close here where I lived. I fucking hate my town because of a stupid tax write-off. But anyways, I've always told that story, haven't I? But we went to our local Hastings, we bought the movie, we sat down and watched it that night, and I fucking loved it. Even when I was a kid, I loved this movie. As time goes on, I do notice a lot more issues than I do positives, I will admit. I do have a lot of positives. I'll get into my thoughts. But yeah, as I got older, I started to lose a little bit of that love, but I still like the movie. It's still a really enjoyable movie. But enough stalling. How about I just talk about why I like this movie? Starting off with my positives on The Wolverine is I really like the setting of Japan, Tokyo, Japan. I really like that setting. I don't know why, but something about a Tokyo setting kind of matches a Wolverine like character because of like his claws coming out and how he like fights everybody, how he gets into fights, and a lot of like Japanese animes or Japanese movies made are usually very violent, kinda. And this movie, which I'll get into, like it's pretty violent, and I feel it's because of the Japan setting. I don't want to sound racist or anything. I don't want to come off as racist or something like that, but it just something about Wolverine and Japan just feels right, especially when you see the fight scenes with the ninjas or samurai warriors when they're fighting with the swords and he just has his little claws and he's taking them out like they're nothing. Like that is fucking badass and awesome. Like I don't know why. And I felt like they did a pretty good job of showing off Tokyo a lot. And where I felt like going into like certain apartments or certain buildings or seeing certain buildings like with the billboards or the lights on the buildings stuff like that, it does a good job of showing you what Tokyo looks like. I've never personally been to Tokyo, but I have seen pictures, and for some reason that's always been a place I've wanted to go, but at the same time I don't like people, so I probably wouldn't. I don't like people. They're the biggest thing in the world that I don't like. So yeah, I really enjoy that setting for Wolverine. Again, it just feels right. I can't really put to words why it feels right, but when I was just watching the movie and I just saw the setting in Japan, I'm like, this doesn't feel bad. I like this. This seems like a good way to take Wolverine, and I like that. And once again, the action in this movie is great as always. Like I talked about in Origins, is that the action in the movie is great, and I feel the action is 10 times better in this movie. Props to the stunt coordinators and stunt people and the fight choreography. they did a fucking fantastic job. Like especially when at the very end, like when Wolverine is kind of like going up to the big tower and he just fights all these guys. Like that's a pretty fucking badass sequence. Or like when at the funeral during that sequence, that is awesome. The one that comes to my mind that I remember loving when I was a kid, and I had my dad rewind it constantly to just rewatch that sequence, is the bullet train. Is when they're on top of it and they're like jumping and they're landing back on there, and when excuse me, and when Wolverine kind of like fucks with the guy in front of him, and he just jump like he kind of hops a little bit to trick him, and he jumps and he fucking dies. That's a I don't know why.
Got knocked the fuck out, man!
I I technically am a terrible person for laughing at that, but there's no denying that was fucking hilarious. But yeah, absolute props to fight coordinators or stunt people, because I felt they did a good job of bringing like the samurai fights to life. Was brilliant. I thought they did a really good job on that, to where like whenever you see like a samurai fight in like a movie or a show or on like I don't know if there's like sports on it in Japan or something like that. They made this movie look really realistic, oddly enough, with it with the fights going on. I felt they did a good job. I just liked it. Stunt work, it's great with the action, and so I just wanted to give a little props to them. Something in this movie that I thought was really interesting that they did throughout most of the movie until like maybe the final 30-ish minutes of the movie is Logan kind of loses his powers in this movie. Now, I know it's not permanent and it's only for a little bit of time. It's when this girl who's like a lizard person or whatever, she like makes out with him and puts like this green mist in his body to where it like gets like a parasite around his heart or whatever, and it's like taking away his power, so where he's not able to heal. He's not really able to fight when he gets shot in the movie. Like he's like kind of wounded, and he's actually like he's slowly experiencing death. And that's something that I loved about Logan, that James Mangold, who's also the director of this movie, carries on into Logan. And I like that to where they fully do that in that movie. But in this movie, they kind of tease at that. And I like that to where it kind of makes this journey for Logan a little bit more emotional, and it feels like that he's actually at stake, because like in the X-Men movies or like a lot of the other movies, he's kind of like fucking around knowing that he can't die, but he wants to die. Like when someone like stabs him or shoots him or punches him, like he knows it's like he just brushes it off like it's nothing to him, like he's gonna walk it off, quite literally walks it off. And in this movie, it just feels like there's stakes there to where he might be able to die. And sure, we're not able to see Wolverine as he is and how we like to see him as his badass self, fucking people up the with his little knives. But it's like I like that. That's why I love Logan so much. I keep bringing Logan up. I should stop that. But it's like like I said, that's why I like Logan, and they slowly do that in this movie for most of the movie. I don't like how they did it to where he's able to kind of lose his powers for a little bit. I don't like how they did it, but it's interesting, and that's why I like what they did with Logan in here, to where he's actually like stakes, to where he even talks about this is like when he's at like a animal shelter, like the love interest of the movie knows this guy who's like who's a veterinarian, and she brings him to this guy who does surgery on him, and when he gets up, he goes, "I've never had to do this before. I've never needed this before," and he points it out, and it's very clever, and it's something about the movie that I really enjoy throughout the entire runtime of the movie that we got to see. But the final half hour is him fucking people up, and especially the scene where he just stabs himself and just kind of like goes in his fucking chest to get the parasite out. That was a badass sequence, and it's very squeamish. Like I'm a very squeamish person when it comes to like surgery shows. Like that's why I can't watch Grey's Anatomy. I'm very squeamish. I really like how this movie kind of really pushed the PG-13 rating to where like I honestly feel this movie should have been rated R, because I feel Wolverine just works awesomely in a R-rated movie. That's why I'm very excited to see what they'll do with him in Deadpool Wolverine. I just always felt like he just fits perfectly in an R-rated movie, and I'm glad this movie kind of like pushes that, and they kind of like push the violence, they push the language, they push the stakes and all that. Like that's one of my favorite parts of the movie, and I'm really glad that they did something with that. Like when he's cutting up open his chest trying to grab the parasite, when he's fucking people up, when people are getting stabbed. He drops the F bomb in this movie, which isn't surprising to me, which is something I really wish they just made rated R so I can hear him say fuck a lot. But yeah, I really like that. That is something I love about Wolverine is when he's able to just let loose, be violent, be a fucking monster. As that's why I love Wolverine so much. But in this movie, they don't fully do that, but they do push it, and I'm glad that they did that. Moving on to my mixed aspects, seeing the return of Jean Grey, kind of, where she doesn't really return, because as we see at the end of X-Men The Last Stand, we see that Wolverine kills her. He puts her out of her misery, basically. But in this movie, obviously he still has feelings for her because Wolverine does. And he kind of sees her in the dreams where when he's sleeping or dreaming. He kind of like shows them they're in a bed together, and she's in a nightgown. He's shirtless, sexual stuff basically. And like he kind of makes a promise to her that he's not gonna kill any people more. He's not gonna be the Wolverine that he once was. On the other hand, it is cool to see Jean Grey kind of come back. It's cool that her actress came back to do those small scenes, but at the same time, it's like, was that even needed? Did we need to do that? I guess it's to give depth for Wolverine after what he just did in The Last Stand. But it's just like, she didn't need to be there. I get it. He still has feelings for her. He still loves her. His heart's in the right place. But it's just like, that didn't need to be there. I honestly felt they cut it out. No impact on the story whatsoever. But hey, it was just cool to see her come back. I'm pretty sure this was actually the last time we saw her actress, or maybe she'll be in the new Deadpool and Wolverine. Who knows? I hear there's a shit ton of cameos in it. But who knows? Maybe in the future we'll see her come back, but if as of right now, I believe this was the last time we saw the original actress of Jean Grey, so that's something. But now moving on to my negatives. Villains, they're all over the fucking place. There's like three different villains in this movie, and none of them are fucking interesting. One, you got this lizard-like lady that spits out green mist and poisons people from a kiss.
You serious?
And then you got ninjas. That's cool, I guess. And then you get the guy who is the reason why Wolverine is in Japan in the first place is because he wanted to thank him for saving him in Pearl Harbor, I think. What war was that in the opening sequence? I don't know, but he's there to thank him, and it's just like, oh, I am the big bad villain in this big CGI fucking monster thingy. I'm gonna put my things into your claws and suck out your energy, cause rawr.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know why I did that. But villains wise, none of them are interesting, none of them are memorable. The only memorable one is the lizard lady, because she's fucking weird. For my final negative, the love stuff going on with Wolverine and this one chick that is the daughter of kind of the head of the ninjas. No, wait, that was her fiance. Her fiance is the leader of these ninjas in these movies, and and Logan only saves her because her own husband tried to kill her, and so Wolverine saves her, and they slowly get this romantic stuff going on. They start kissing, they supposedly have sex, and they kind of boil this love interest stuff to kind of build up the suspense. And when if she gets kidnapped at the later end of the movie, to where like the final act of the movie kind of kicks off. I didn't need that. I felt like it could have just been poof, gone, didn't need to be there. I felt the chemistry wasn't there whatsoever. I honestly felt it was only there to build up suspense, but chemistry wise, it's just not there. And at the same time, I just didn't care. I don't even remember her name. What the fuck was her name? All in all, guys, I really enjoy the Wolverine. Does it have its flaws? Yeah. Does it not very age well with some CGI? Sure, especially at the final act with the big samurai monster thing, whatever the fuck that thing is. But CGI wise, it's still good. I forgot to mention that. But anyways, yeah, I really enjoy the Wolverine. It is a very underrated Wolverine movie, and it is a very underrated comic book movie. I really enjoy this movie. If you have not seen it, please seek it out and check it out. I definitely believe it is worth your time. So what do you guys think about The Wolverine? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you prefer this over Logan? If you have seen it, let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe with the bell notification so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, I'll see you all next time.